everything, it was all green lights. Everything just happened perfectly. You just described that. We don't do that often enough.
I
Kudos.
think I think we have a problem as people. I think we have a problem of always looking up and never looking down. We always look up at what we don't have,
Mm.
what people have that we don't have.
Hmm.
You never look down and say, "Golly, I'm doing pretty good compared to a lot of people." And it's important to keep that
Yes.
perspective.
You know what's so pure and beautiful about what you just said, Ted, is you started it with golly.
Golly.
Golly!
I guess I'm
Things
a
are
relic of
looking
that
up.
era. Golly, I did say golly.
I am
Yeah.
sharing space with a man who uses the term golly and a woman who calls pants trousers. This is my lot in life.
The hollow bunny.
The hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Hollow Bunny Leadership Podcast. I'm Kristen Ziman, and I am here with my wise and wickedly insightful co-host, Sylvia Moir.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, and your nose isn't bleeding today, so we're already winning.
Right? We're winning.
You did cough into the microphone, but I'm
I
going to allow
did.
that.
This thing is lingering forever. My nose isn't bleeding like a crime scene, but I am consuming decaf coffee. And it's decaf Keurig coffee, which is like plastic warm chemicals that resemble coffee.
I can almost taste that, like that. I can taste the cup. I'm so used to hotel coffee. And that's why, that's why, it's so funny. People are always trying to get to hotels. Like I have friends that love staycations and, they're like, they just love to book into a hotel that's like in the same city. And literally half of my life is just trying to get home and back into my bed.
Yeah. Okay. They actually do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is that about?
I don't know. And maybe it's just, I think like hotels, I mean, maybe I guess they, like there's an allure to them for people. I genuinely don't know. That's why I'm curious about it and not in a judgmental way, but I think it's just because I travel so much and I spend so much time away from home and I hate hotel beds. Everyone is different and my sleep sucks and the coffee is garbage. And I'm genuinely, most of my life is just trying to get into my bed.
Okay. That's good to know. Now, okay. So I don't mind a hotel bed. I could sleep on a couch. I could sleep on a floor. I mean, growing up, I can sleep anywhere. It's one of those superpower things. Just, I do my little gratitude meditation and boom, out. Good night. And done, unless something's super troubling me at a deep, 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 deep way, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's that. Kristen, so you're saying that your life is about looking at your very well-made bed and thinking about longing for how you can get into it.
That's longing. Longing is such a great word. I just love my bed.
Okay, good to know.
It's such a good bed. It's not made properly right now. You want to know why? Guess.
Why? Someone's in it.
Because Chris Tunney was in charge of making the bed this morning. And I should send you a picture of it. I'm going to text you a picture of it.
Are you kidding? Okay, so
she can't hear me.
I'm going to confess while I'm waiting for the picture. I must confess, or you'll take it later, whichever, that in a hotel, I don't make it like I do at home, but I always straighten and kind of tuck, straighten so it kind of looks made. Okay.
Yeah, same. I don't make the bed in the hotel, but I just pull the covers up and just like make it so it's less disheveled. But yeah, no, I don't make it in a hotel. I'm not insane. You think some people, I want to hear from people who actually make a hotel bed. Listeners, if you are one of those people that make the hotel bed while you're still staying at the hotel, please contact us. I want to put you under a microscope. I want to dissect you.
No. Well, and as we're dissecting them, we need to dissect the other thing that we're talking about today that our listeners have said they want to churn on, that you wake up thinking about right now.
It is why smart people stay in broken systems. This is something that almost everyone listening has experienced at some point in their career. You're sitting inside a system that isn't working. Everyone knows it. Everyone sees it, but nothing changes. People complain privately. They whisper about it in the hallway still. They text about it after the meeting. But when the moment actually comes to challenging the system, silence. So today, that's the question that I would like to pose. Why do smart people stay inside systems that they know are broken?
Because we know there are a number of traps that keep them there.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming, everybody. This was the Hello Bunny podcast, and we are signing off.
So part of this is the kind of the psychological part of it's the cognitive trap, and there's different reasons why people stay. Okay. And the one that I'm super interested in is this competence trap, that smart people, when they're really good at something, they continue to do it. It becomes comfortable, and that comfort, while it may lead to stagnation. And there's two parts of this. The competence trap is they're really good at it, so it leads to comfort. They can just repeat the same thing. The second is they don't want to suck at something new. They don't want to become a beginner at something new. And you're really good at this. And I try to suck at something new because of you, because of your urging. But this other piece and this comfort piece, you and I pick at almost on every pod. And every time we're talking about leadership, because this is one of the great traps. It is a trap that will keep you and bind you to a place that you need to move from.
So you're saying that it is the comfort of competency, basically. Yep. And this kind of goes to Daniel Pink's work of what people want in their lives. They want autonomy. They want to be able to do work without being controlled. And they want mastery, which is competency. And that competency, if we are not careful, leads us into the comfort zone. Okay, so I think you're onto something there. However, I think it's more of a culture issue. I don't necessarily believe it's an individual thing. Yes, because I believe that most organizations have two conversations, the meeting conversation and the hallway conversation. And I think a lot of people see what is wrong, but the meeting conversation is polite, it's careful, it's controlled, but the hallway conversation is honest. And you know this. Listen, when we were in the middle of our organizations, in mid-career, I will tell you, I said what I really thought to my comrades, but just not where it actually mattered. And so I think it's a collective dishonesty. So I think we tiptoe around things. We know the problem exists, but we know that it's safer not to say it out loud. So you're suggesting it's a comfort issue, which is true. I think that's part of it. But I also think, because it's uncomfortable to speak up. So I think that maybe unwrapping that makes more sense.
Well, I don't know if it's okay. So it is uncomfortable to speak up. So I'll acknowledge that we've both witnessed that. I will also say that the piece that I was focused on is they're comfortable because they're competent. They're the person that can get things done. They don't want to speak up because it's going to change what they're comfortable doing. That's the comfort I'm talking about, not the courageous speak up, find your voice, and say something. But I'm arguing the other nuanced piece that, hey, they're really good at it. They're competent. They're seen as the person that can get it done this way, but they just don't want to try something new. So those are two different lanes of the same kind of highway.
So that's interesting. So you think that people can see. So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier, is like you're blind and then you become aware, you become awakened. And so what you're suggesting is that people become awakened. However, that's the moment of reckoning, the moment of truth and choice, where you decide, I'm going to try something, but it is either fear of failure or coming out of your comfort zone. So do you think, I guess what I want to pull on here is, do you think that people are worried that if they speak up, if they recognize the problem, then they will be asked to own the problem? And then there is a component of potential failure if they are asked to own the problem that they have now identified?
Yes. And the yes to your thing, and the and is they will be uncomfortable because they have to find a new way of doing something. And that's where the human brain keeps us away from discomfort.
Okay. It's learned helplessness.
And learned like it's comfortable. We do this. We protect our identity. We avoid the pain of change. That's what human beings do.
This is so interesting because this is not only in our organizations, these are in our relationships as well. We have often asked questions of each other. Why is it that really smart, competent, confident people stay in places for which they are miserable? I was just having this conversation on the golf course with a good friend of mine. And I said, why does that? We were actually talking about another individual that we think is kind of being controlled in her relationship. And she's a baller. She is a boss. She's a baller. And one of the women I was golfing with, she said, that was me in my marriage too. And this woman in her own right is successful, competent, confident. And she said, and I stayed and I played small in my relationship. So would you say that this is overarching in our organizations and in our relationships as well? And yes, and sometimes we play different roles. So you could be the baller boss in your job, but then in your relationship, you shrink and play small. Ooh, it's not where
Here's
I was going with this.
Here's the psychology of this. It's not where we intended to go, but
no,
hey,
it's not. But that's the part of the Hollow Bunny.
Okay, you ready? This is the theory of accepted misery. We tolerate a bad situation because it's not so bad yet that it forces us to make an uncomfortable and decision and take immediate action. There's this idea out in business called the zombie state of working. There might be something in relationships. It's this zombie state of being. And in this interaction, this acceptable misery, people stay in a relationship, don't want to confront the sitch, don't want to actually confront what is making them unhappy, uncomfortable, or largely unfulfilled, because it's this acceptable misery, right? And you can
would you say that you're blind? Would you say that you're blind, or you're aware of it, but you're frozen?
You're aware.
So you're aware of it. That's it. That's the moment of reckoning, is you become aware. You can't unknow that you're unhappy, or you can't unknow that this system is broken. And now the moment is, what do we do about it? You either act. And as you said, you either act in an adaptive way, or what was the other for leadership on the line? Adaptive or technical. Technical. You either make and a technical fix is easy, but the adaptive fix, and maybe that doesn't apply here. Check me on that. Maybe that doesn't apply here, but that's where I feel like we're really having these parallel conversations about relationships. And you're calling it, I call it learned helplessness, which is a nice way of saying stop being a victim, but it's apathy, maybe.
I think it's more toward apathy. And I really appreciate this kind of idea of acceptable misery, right? I can accept this idea of acceptable misery because I think this is beyond your blindness, because we know it. When it goes into this cognitive space and we are churning on this issue about what we can accept and what we can't accept in terms of misery, in terms of a value conflict, in terms of a structural failure, which is a bad system, which is the question you originally posed. There's this point of what can I accept and what can I not? And I think that's the thread that needs to be pulled, because you call it the reckoning. And so I think we need to sit in this space and say, okay, what are we willing to accept? Kristen, you and I both had an encounter last October where there was an event, an action that occurred, right? And it became this immediate and incredibly poignant and visible demonstration of values and of one's dealing with what's coming up for them, an inability to deal with their own emotions and the narrow confines, right? And their own, okay. Here's the thing. That became immediately unacceptable, right? And in business, in relationships, which business organizations about relationships largely, there's acceptable misery and there's completely unacceptable. And it's easier when something is so rapidly, so visibly unacceptable. What we need to pick apart is, what are those bad systems that smart people stay in, and how do they get to that point where it's just they can take it, it's acceptable until it's not.
Well, here's the thing about that. I love this, because we were talking about being blind, which is you don't know the problem. And let's sit there for a minute. Sometimes you really don't know the problem. And we know what that's like. Maybe we're confined in this relationship. Let's use the relationship as an example. And we're in this relationship, but we're really unaware until maybe we have a conversation with a very close friend and we say things out loud that we wouldn't normally say. And then the other person looks at you and says, this is unacceptable. You know that, right? And now you go from blind to aware, but that is not what you're talking about. You're talking about being aware of this and choosing to do nothing about it. And to me, that is worse. That is where we freeze, and that is where we put our blinders on and we just say, okay, this sucks really bad, but I'm going to just endure it. And then you're saying that there is a moment where you simply cannot endure anymore. And here's where I would push back and go, bullshit. People spend their whole lives enduring shit. They are in relationships that they know they should have gotten out of from the beginning, and they will continue to go through the motions until they get to the end of their one wild and precious life, and they will go, what did I do? I think you're giving people too much credit.
Well, isn't that my human condition?
Yes, it makes you so beautiful, Sugar Britches.
Yeah, and we get free shit because of it. Okay, so, but yeah, I think it's also the human condition to kind of talk ourselves out of it, to kind of make a list. Okay, there's all these things that are making me unhappy. But what is the result if I actually take action and make a change in a system, in an organization, in a relationship? That's the time where people start operating from a position of fear. And this is what you challenge all the time. It's like, oh, I will lose my standing. I will lose my being the smartest person in the room. I will lose my position as the go-to person in my organization. I will lose being super competent, being able to fluidly work through these things. I will lose my house. I will lose my relationship with my kids. I will lose, people do this calculation that I just say, yeah, okay, cool. What do you gain? And so there's this cognitive and psychological manifestation of fear, that it keeps us in this acceptable misery. And I think that acceptable misery is the fear. It's a loss. And it's bullshit.
It is. The acceptable misery is exactly as you've described it, is fear of what is on the other side. If I take an action that moves me, like sometimes, and I've heard people say this, well, things aren't so bad when I compare them with someone else who has it worse, or things aren't so bad. And but this is why we call them rational lies, because that's what rationalization is. And so then what we do is we keep going, we stay stuck in that moment. So the moment of reckoning, that's why I called the moment of reckoning the moment of truth and choice. You've now seen the truth. Now you must make a choice. You act, or you stay paralyzed, you stay stagnant. So it is that moment in our organizations when the cost of silence becomes greater than the cost of speaking up. It is that moment in our relationship when the cost of staying comfortable or unhappy is greater than the unknown of what is on the other side. If I'm alone and I have to start all over, but that is the moment when people realize I can't keep pretending this is okay. And that is the moment when you choose to stay or to move. Action. Action is everything.
Right. And I'm not even sure they pretend. I'm going to, push back on that. I don't think they pretend. I think they rationalize. They rationalize their fears. This isn't so bad. They rationalize. I don't think they pretend at all.
Rationalize.
They just rationalize. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a total mind fuck though. That's all that is.
Oh.
It's a brainwashing of yourself.
Right. And you ask the question, why do smart people stay in broken systems? Why do smart people stay in bad situations? Because they think they can fix it. They rationalize it, and they have this intellect where they can discern, and then they go through this whole kind of the kind of movement through all of the different things that could happen. And then they even further rationalize because they're freaking smart.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
there's a
They're freaking smart. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. They're so smart that they can actually pull it off. They can say, this isn't so bad, or they can
Yeah.
all of the talking points that will make
Right.
themselves feel better for another day.
Yeah, right. And it's, they're kind of conditioned in the habits and the routines of the relationship or of the business. So they're in the meeting, they hear the things. There's a certain tempo and routine. And rather than giving themselves permission to challenge, to leave, to rise up, they rationalize themselves into, what's the worst that could happen? We continue doing the thing we're doing in this organization. Is anybody going to die as a result? No. Or
Right,
stay
it's
in
fine.
the relationship. It's all right.
It's fine. It's fine. It's meh. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
It could be worse, but it's fine. But see, that's where we live. It's like, you know what? It's fine. I'm not terribly unhappy. It's fine. And that's what we do. And then we stay stuck. So yeah. But then on this continuum that I'm kind of working through, but then we move to crisis.
Can you
to your
explain
point?
it?
I'm workshopping it, but
So
it's like,
let's talk about
literally-
it lightly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really does apply here. And I didn't mean for it to, but I've been workshopping this with a thought leader. And basically what we're looking at here is, this is what you're talking about, the moment of reckoning and accountability. Accountability is you either act or you don't, but you're aware. Now you're going to move towards crisis. And this is exactly what you said. Until in an organization, crisis is you keep ignoring the feedback that you're getting, bosses, you're hearing the rumblings, but you're ignoring it. I just had a friend visit me, and she told me that her boss, she's middle management. And she said her boss, when he starts a meeting, he said, there's a big problem with the system and process, and they all know it across this giant organization. And he starts the meeting and says, I don't want to hear about what's bad with this process. I already know it sucks, but I don't want to hear it.
Stop talking. Stop.
That is where you're aware. You're aware.
Kristen.
Now you have the moment of reckoning. And here's where the accountability, you're not taking accountability. And so you're doing this. That's what we're talking about, is like, it's fine. We can deal with it. That's what we're talking about. And then here's what's going to happen. It's gonna blow. Yes, baby. Yes, baby. Yes, sugar britches.
He actually says that.
He starts the meeting with, you guys, I already know. You've already told me what's wrong with this system. I don't want to hear it, because because then he has to do something about it. That's what happens all the time. Why are you acting shocked, sugar britches? This happens all the time in our organizations. He says it, but people think it. But you're so right. People think it, or they're just like, I don't want to deal with it. That's why bosses don't ask for feedback. That's why they don't encourage dissent, because guess what? Bad news is going to come your way. And now you are aware, and now you will be held accountable to do something. This is where we get stuck. I don't want to hear it. Same with our relationships. I just don't want to hear it, because then I have to do something about it. And that's where accountability lives. And if you don't do something about it, something is going to blow up, and it will be a crisis that you could have averted.
Well, and here comes you and I talking about Marty Linsky's and Ron Heifetz's book, Leadership on the Line, where they said, okay, when you find out something, when you discover something, you're not blind anymore. You have this reckoning. You have to do something about it. You have to take action. And you and I talked about this. If you're told you have high blood pressure, there's a technical fix and there's an adaptive change. And a technical fix is, you have high blood pressure, take a pill.
Take a pill.
And you will see a positive result, because that technical fix will create change. It is based on science. It's based on a lot of research. It's based on time-tested truths. You take this pill, you have a resulting decrease in your blood pressure, right? Technical fix, boom. Adaptive change, however, says you may have that technical fix. You may take that pill. You're also absolutely required in this one wild and precious life, as you call it, responsible for your own agency and your own life. And that means I'm going to look at those things that are adding to the conditions that are leading to my high blood pressure. So I may take the technical fix because it's tested and true to give me a jump start, but then I'm going to say, what are the adaptive necessities and adaptive changes that must occur for me to have a result in this indicator of high blood pressure? You can apply that to organizations. This is what you're talking about and what you're trying to pick apart.
Absolutely. And you unlocked that for me because I was stuck in accountability where I understand conceptually that accountability is simply action. It is either act or don't act. You know, now you must do. And then you challenged me to say, but sometimes doing is the technical approach where your metaphor for taking a pill is brilliant because that's easy. But the adaptive approach is now I have to change the way I think and the way that I believe. And that means that, you know what? I have been eating like shit. I eat fried food all the time and my blood pressure is high and my weight is heavy. So I can take a pill or I can change the way that I see my health, which means that I have to overhaul my whole life about my diet and the way that health and wellness looks for me. That is not easy. And that is why people get stuck there.
That's why they get stuck. That's why they don't do it, because it's uncomfortable. It requires an alteration in routine. It requires a consciousness and an action. One of the things we also talked about, and the reason that I unlocked this for you is because I had Vietnamese egg coffee that gave me stronger brain power. I'm just going to say Vietnamese coffee is like the pathway. So here's the thing, though. There's this other thing we need to talk about. Everyone's strength used to excess becomes their weakness. So said my dad, that probably stole it from, who knows, Confucius. Here's the thing, though. Some people get this notice, this rising in personal life, in professional life, and they start taking action. And the action becomes so severe, so strong that they forget to stay still. And so action becomes the addiction. And there's a point where we're going to have to talk about that too.
That's a whole other podcast.
There are a shit ton of people that they're like, oh, really? You're going to tell me I'm about to die? I'm going to go run. I'm going to eat. I'm going to drink Kristen Tunney's green shakes that taste like a fart in your mouth. I'm going to do all these things in my life. All these things. And they become so addicted to the action, they forget to live. And there is a consciousness and intention and purpose that has to come with that adaptive change. And I would argue that the strongest people that make adaptive change are those that pause at certain milestones that are right for them to examine how they feel while taking the action and making the adaptive change. And so I think that really needs to be picked apart as well.
So what you're arguing then is the human condition can also go to the other end of the spectrum where so much action can also become very unhealthy. Is that your thesis?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
We could put it in a physical sense. We could put it in a psychological or cognitive space. But I really think that what we are talking about is when smart people stay in something, in a broken system.
Yeah.
And so once they recognize that the system is broken, they're no longer blind, and they have to go to your next stage of reckoning, right?
For sure. Yeah. And I think it's important to say here is that people inside broken systems, they're not bad people. They're not lazy. They're not stupid. They're just navigating comfort. Maybe, incentives, maybe if it's an organization, they're navigating incentives, but I say comfort though. They're navigating comfort is that thing. If I do that, it will blow up and it will make me uncomfortable. And that moment might feel risky. It might feel uncomfortable, but that is literally where change begins. That's it.
Yes. There's also the golden handcuffs. I mean, you have a family to feed, you got to stay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You have a job. Okay. There's all of that. And that's why, I chose government work because of the safety and security and healthcare benefits. Right. So, I chose that because it's more safe than the corporate world largely. Plus I liked, the uniform and kicking ass and all that, serving people and, those things. But I do think there are other things that we have to at least acknowledge, that some people are stuck in it until they create a system within self and a plan of action to actually navigate that change with a safety net. And I don't blame them for that. It's like
Me neither.
having, I don't blame them for that at all. The imperative is that they actually take action, and that they manifest the courage, that they challenge their own sense of comfort and their own sense of, like, if they're the expert and smart person in the room, then the approval, the addiction of approval and being the go-to person. Those are kind of the things, the financial part and the other psychological traps, right? Here's the thing. It takes a different amount of time for everybody. And where you and I talk about it, we get a little judgy, is shoot it off the pot. I mean, take action. I have seen people, we have seen people that it takes a long time. There's such a long off ramp. And so, but we're outside of it. So we can be witness and we can be nudge for the consciousness, but it's their path. It's their kind of journey.
Right. And that's just the human condition, where we see things so clearly from the outside looking in and someone else's emotional event. And we make decisions that are not emotional, forgetting that they're in the middle of that emotional event. So, but I like what you said there, and we can kind of land the plane here, but you said something very important. I think that there is a misnomer about radical jumping without the net. And I love what you said. Listen, build the net. That's why, broken systems change when you decide, first of all, that the truth matters more than the comfort. So you can make incremental changes, shifts, basically the metaphor, building that net to jump. So you don't have to free fall, and you can start doing that, right?
You know what that makes me think about is, I'm in Marin County. Golden Gate Bridge connects San Francisco with Marin County. And so many, this is going to be gross, but it will give kind of an idea. They built a suicide net beneath the Golden Gate Bridge. And being part of the coroner's division, we investigate all those that are successful in committing suicide. So many of these people, the net was built in a way that someone jumps, it gives them a second chance to kind of rethink what they're doing, the consequences of what they're doing. So they fall pretty far, but then some of them hit that net and roll off to complete what they intended to complete.
Sure.
And
while others go, thank God for this net.
Yeah. And while kind of a shocking and jarring description and story, it sure gives us something that we can examine in terms of, what is the purpose of a net? The purpose of the net may just be to save you from what you originally intended, but think, wow, this is a really shitty idea.
Yeah, I love that. Funny story. When I was at that bridge, there's a little restaurant bar underneath the bridge that looks at the bridge. And so Chris and I were vacationing there, and we walked into this bar, and the bartender literally said, "Oh, you guys, you just missed it. Like, someone just jumped." And we see it all the time. And we're like, wait, what? And it was so cavalier. But anyway, I love this metaphor though about
it's horrible.
That net. It's horrible. But that net being installed gives someone a second chance to go, okay, I felt what that felt like, that crisis. And the net appeared, which is very interesting. But I think what we're trying to say here is that you need to move. This is the tough love that I want to give you, is that when you are in that moment of reckoning, when you are faced with that moment of truth and choice, you cannot unknow what you don't know, and you have to act, or you have no excuse anymore. That's where I'm landing. It's tough love, but I'm landing there.
It's not exercising your inner bully. It's like saying it's tough love.
But here's what I want people to walk away with. I don't want them to walk away with helplessness of, oh gosh, I'm so scared that I'm frozen. I want them to feel resolve, agency, that this moment of reckoning, what I do next matters, and I have control over my own life through this next action. And hey, you may free fall for sure, but it's still movement and it's going to get you at least closer to where you're trying to land.
Yeah, and if your actions are aligned with your values and aligned with your character, sound, positive character that contributes, hit it, take action.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Hey, listen, bunnies, thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Hollow Bunny podcast. As you all know, Ted Madden produces this podcast, and the song you're about to hear was written and performed exclusively by my handsome and talented son, Jake Ziman, and his friends, Fabian and Zoe. If you like our podcast, please subscribe, please like it, please review it, please tell everyone you know about it, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And if you don't like it, move along. There's nothing more to see here. Keep filling your own bunnies and keep adding substance to others.
When you look inside, what do you find? Are you content to fall behind? When you lose your way and you've lost your why, have courage and get ready to fight the hollow bunny. When the way ahead is covered in smoke and you're tired and you're scared and you're losing hope, you'll open your heart and your eyes to see a challenge and a question, why not me, to fight the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. When the challenge ahead scares you to death, you tame the imposter inside instead. To change the world, you've got to start small. It takes a leader to say, I don't know it all. And I know I'm gonna fall, but I'll pick it up and come back stronger. Failing forward and moving onward, doing the hard thing and the right thing, forever fighting the hollow bunny. And we all feel hollow sometimes, but the monsters are only in your mind. It's a tough pill to swallow, but if you're brave and kind, you'll be alright. If you fight the hollow bunny. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. If you're tough on the outside but empty within, something's gonna crack, you've gotta start again. The monsters